The Georgia Senate runoff has gone completely off the rails as Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker has accused Raphael Warnock of sexual assault and physical assault. What? What is he talking about? None of us know. And increasingly, the question is being asked, does Walker even have any idea what he's talking about? Is this defamation? Let's look at the clip. This is, to say it's gotten ugly is an understatement. I genuinely don't know whether Walker has any idea what he's saying, but that would not be an excuse here. That would not be an excuse. This is the height of dangerous irresponsibility. Herschel Walker spoke yesterday at some event. He's doing these campaign events all over Georgia. And he said, there was physical abuse and there was sexual abuse. Who did it? It has to be Senator Raphael Warnock. Now, I'll tell you what this relates to in a moment. Here's the clip.
He's not what he claimed to be. And some of the best people that know him best say that he's an actor. He's an actor because y'all know what he did at that camp as well. Y'all may not have heard this. This young man said that was a sexual abuse and that was physical abuse. And I'm like, who did that? It had to be Senator Raphael Warnock because he was responsible for it. Y'all didn't hear about that, did you? He don't want to talk about those things because he don't want you to know that. He think he gets a good senator for you. I'm telling you right now, it is time for a change.
Yeah. Now, if you can make heads or tails out of that unintelligible word salad, by all means, go ahead and do it. This is so difficult because Walker clearly is saying that Raphael Warnock sexually abused and physically abused a kid. Okay, it's clear that he's saying those words. But at the same time, it's never really clear that Walker has any idea what he's saying. And I know every time we talk about this, David, well, that's not really issues oriented, or he has a brain injury from football. That hasn't been said. Or this is because of his dissociative identity disorder that he says these things. That's not the explanation that they're giving. We have to go by what he is saying. And there's a real question as to whether this is potentially defamatory. Now, again, it's not clear Walker knows what he's saying because it's never clear he knows what he's saying. But what this is about relates to allegations that camp counselors 20 years ago at a camp where Warnock ran the camp, but there's no allegations that Warnock did any of this stuff. The allegation is that a 12-year-old boy was forced to sleep outside at the camp and had urine tossed on him by camp counselors. Okay. Absolutely horrible allegations. And the incident was investigated in 2001, 2002. It resulted in no charges. Law enforcement later called it a miscommunication. And it was never even alleged that Warnock did any of the stuff. Now, you could say, well, if indeed it happened, maybe Raphael Warnock, who was running the camp, had some ultimate responsibility. But the idea that Warnock is a sexual or physical abuser is completely out of this world. Now, the question then becomes, is this defamatory? Because in general, if some random person on Twitter with 5 followers tweets that Raphael Warnock sexually and physically abused someone, it's not defamatory because it's not damaging to Warnock. But when we look at the requirements for defamation, the information that is allegedly defamatory must be published. Well, that means that it's public, and here's the video. We looked at the video, so it certainly meets that standard. The person being defamed was clearly identified by the statement, meaning, is it clear that Walker is talking about his opponent, Senator Raphael Warnock? I would argue it's clear that it is. He says Raphael Warnock is the one who did this. There's no confusion as to whether he means someone else by that name or anything like that. Number 3, the remarks have a negative effect on the person's reputation. That's the question. We don't know yet. But if it starts to spread in such a tight race, the completely baseless allegation that Warnock is a physical and sexual abuser, you could argue that those remarks have a negative impact on Warnock's reputation. Number 4 is the information demonstrably false? Well, it's hard to prove negatives, but there's certainly no evidence that these allegations about Warnock are true. And the police investigation generally into this incident at the camp, which isn't even alleged to be Warnock's doing found no legal wrongdoing, and it didn't even allege that Warnock was the one doing it. And then number 5, the defendant is at fault. In other words, that it is indeed Herschel Walker who made these claims and made them in a way that is consistent with reckless disregard, or there's different standards in different states. You arguably have a defamation case here. Now, what I care more about is, can we just get Raphael Warnock over the finish line before some new thing comes up that gets in the way of this campaign? And I think, again, without defending or attacking the individual incident and what supposedly happened to this 12-year-old, what Walker said is not even remotely based in fact, and the crowd just sort of goes along with it. The real disturbing part of all of this is that this race even went to a runoff. That's really the disturbing part, that the Georgia Republican voters, and this is a theme that we are following, in their desperation to not vote for a Democrat, they are voting for someone who is completely unqualified, doesn't have a sensible position that he can articulate on any issue, and on a personal level is a complete hypocrite with regard to the policy positions that he sort of claims to advocate, to the extent that we can understand him. Completely against abortion in all cases, no exception. Well, he urged 2 women and paid for 2 women to get abortions. It says we need men not to be absent fathers. He's an absent father to multiple kids that we know about. It's not even totally clear to me how many kids it is. And on and on and on. That alone is not a reason to vote against him. But the totality of the situation should lead to this guy losing by 40 points. And instead, it was so close, within 1 point, with neither candidate able to secure 50% of the vote, that now we have a runoff on December 6th. Let's really hope that our Georgia friends who vote in Georgia get out there and make this extraordinarily important vote. We'll have live coverage on December 6th. That's the day of the runoff. Everything you do online can be tracked by your ISP, by tech platforms, the government, hackers. Everyone should be using a VPN. Every time you connect to the internet, you turn it on once, you forget about it. It's easy. Many VPNs secretly record your browsing and download history. But our sponsor, Private Internet Access, is the only VPN with the bulletproof commitment to never doing that, because they're the only VPN that has proven their no-log policy multiple times in court. Their systems are also independently audited by Deloitte to verify no logging. Private Internet Access has a next-generation server infrastructure with IP addresses in 83 countries and all 50 U.S. states. It's one of the only VPNs fast enough for streaming video and downloading large files. For instance, Private Internet Access lets me access a bunch of great international soccer I can't otherwise get. VPNs can be very helpful with the upcoming World Cup. And Private Internet Access has a 30-day money-back guarantee, 24/7 customer support, and my audience gets 82% off. That's just $2.11 a month, plus 3 months free. Go to piavpn.com/David. The link is in the podcast notes.